morning, I'm Taylor Thomas with a CTV News update. A University of Virginia student has been arrested for allegedly fatally shooting 3 football players and wounding 2 others. The suspect has been identified as 22-year-old student Christopher Jones Jr. The shooting happened Sunday night on campus while students were on a bus. The victims in the shooting are Lavelle Davis Jr., Deshaun Perry, and Devin Chandler. All 3 students were juniors at UVA. During a press conference, police said the suspect had been under school investigation after someone reported in September that he had a gun.
Mr. Jones also had come to the attention of our threat assessment team because he was involved in a hazing investigation of some sort. I don't know the facts and circumstances of that investigation. I know that it was eventually closed due to witnesses that would not cooperate with the process.
The suspect is a former UVA football player. COVID remains a major health concern in the U.S. U.S. Secretary of Health Xavier Becerra has extended the nation's COVID-19 public health emergency to beyond January 11th of 2023. Health agencies will be given a 60-day notice before he decides to end the emergency status for the country. Experts expect cases to increase this winter, especially with so many doing things inside as we enter the holiday season.
Well, it's always a concern that it might be an uptick because a virus can mutate. And if it mutates and if the virus becomes more virulent, then we have to go back and do some of the things that we had to do before to mitigate its spread. So we're at the health department, we're well aware of this, and we're taking the precautions the state is and the federal government is, and that's a good thing. We all cooperate to make sure that our citizens are safe.
State officials have reported 744 new COVID cases since yesterday, as well as 5 deaths. Open enrollment has begun for the state's health insurance program. Today, county leaders gathered at the Hyattsville Public Library to kick off the 10th year of Affordable Care Act enrollment through Maryland Health Connect. A number of changes have been made following comments from the public, including affordable insurance for families who are working but cannot afford to cover other members on their plan. The big push this year is to get ages 13 to 35-year-olds who are not insured to sign up before they face a major health issue.
Right now, we estimate there's about 50,000 who are still persistently uninsured in Prince George's County. And we've done a lot of work on getting them insured. Over 100,000 people have become insured in Prince George's County, but that persistently uninsured population, and we think a lot of them, like I said, are in that 18 to 35 age range. We really want to target them and get them insured.
Open enrollment runs through January 15th for coverage that begins in January of 2023. The U.S. Supreme Court heard oral arguments last week over a case dealing with the rights of Native American tribes. The court's conservative majority seemed conflicted as justices heard arguments challenging the Indian Child Welfare Act, a law which was enacted more than 40 years ago. It came about after a congressional investigation found that social service agencies had removed 1/3 of all indigenous children from their homes and placed them in institutions or homes with no ties to American Indian tribes. The law states that in foster and adoption placements, preference must be given to the child's extended family, tribal members, or a different tribe. Now, a new challenge says the law is discriminatory based on race. Piscataway Tribe elder Rico Newman says the current law needs to stay in place.
There's no expectation that these new adoptive parents or whatever they may be who are not from the culture of that child, they can't share with that child their cultural traditions, their language, or other things that distinguish them as to who they are as an individual. This idea of mainstreaming children, irrespective of what their backgrounds and cultures are, it walks itself back to the fact why today we don't speak our language, why many of us don't know our ceremonies, don't know traditions.
During the arguments, the court's liberals joined Justices Gorsuch in noting that American Indians have long been viewed as political groups, not a racial group, and that tribes are viewed as separate sovereigns under the Constitution. Gorsuch, a Western conservative, has been such a staunch supporter of Native rights. You're watching CTV News. I'm Taylor Thomas. Back in a moment. Good evening and welcome back. Maryland State Police today released this video of a deadly road rage shooting that took place on March 19th. The victim is 29-year-old Delonte Hicks, who was driving on Route 50 in the Chevrolet area. The video you're seeing right now is from his dash cam of his tow truck. Police are still looking for the suspect in this case. Anyone with information should contact police. Prince George's police are stepping up efforts to find the person who fatally shot a Temple Hills teenager. This is 13-year-old Jays Agnew. According to reports, the teenager was outside of his home raking leaves in the 2100 block of Jameson Street last Tuesday when he was shot. The teen was rushed to the hospital but died days later on Friday. His mother, Juanita, created a GoFundMe page to help with expenses and has already raised more than $25,000. Police also say a $25,000 reward is being offered for information leading to an arrest and indictment in this case. Well, it looks like recreational cannabis will soon become a part of Maryland's future after voters approved question 4 on the ballot. Possession and use will become legal for people 21 and older starting in July of 2023. But just how quick will Maryland roll out the new program? One medical marijuana dispensary says the state is poised to follow Arizona's example.
They basically were aggressive in allowing the medical stores to open very quickly. And the result is essentially no black market, excellent tax revenue, companies that are successful and healthy. And a lot of the local companies, the business is driven by local people, by local entrepreneurs. And, we want to follow the example of Arizona, not the example of New York. New York has essentially by accident created the worst gray market situation in America. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of illegal dispensaries. The stores that are doing lots of business aren't regulated. They aren't taxed. There's no rules. Nobody knows what's being sold in these places. And at the end of the day, it harms the existing, the potential real recreational market.
A companion bill allows people convicted of marijuana possession to request resentencing or expungement of the offense from their records. Maryland will become the 20th state to legalize recreational cannabis. Maryland may have passed a constitutional amendment legalizing recreational marijuana, but the University of Maryland says it will not permit cannabis use on campus. Students received an email on Friday from Student Conduct Director James Bond. The email says under federal law, cannabis is currently classified as a Scheduled I controlled substance. It is the same in the category of heroin and LSD. Therefore, it's not permitted under the Federal Drug-Free School and Communities Act. President Biden has urged the Department of Health and Human Services and the Department of Justice to renew the classification. Tenants are displaced after a tree falls onto an apartment building in Laurel over the weekend. Take a look at this. This was the scene this morning in the 13,100 block of Larchdale Road. Fire crews were called to the area yesterday for the report of a collapsed tree on an apartment building. Officials say everyone was evacuated safely. The county's Office of Emergency Management is helping the displaced residents. The last time humans walked on the moon was nearly 50 years ago during Apollo 17. Next week, NASA plans to launch Artemis 1, which kicks off a series of missions to set up a permanent base on the moon. That site could ultimately lead to astronauts exploring Mars.
Artemis 1 is our first chance to test this big new rocket that can take people eventually to the moon. This first launch won't have people on it, but it will have a lot of different devices to measure radiation environments, sort of how do we keep people safe when they're up there for a long time. And then in the years to come, the plan is to land the first persons, the first people of color on the moon. And I'm really looking forward to that. The moon's surface is largely unchanged for the last 3 billion years. And so anything that happened to the Earth, what happened in our space environment, environment, what it was like as we went around the galaxy. The recordings of that are in the moon rocks. And so I mean, literally, those 800 pounds changed how we feel that solar systems form, how they evolve. Like I said, we really need more of those samples.
The next generation Mega Moon rocket was scrubbed twice due to technical issues and then again as a result of Hurricane Ian. Now the November 14th planned launch has been changed to Wednesday the 16th due to storm preparations for Tropical Storm Nicole. You can follow the mission and its planned launch at nasa.gov/Artemis. Sports news and more coming up. Stay with us.
Last week, Brandon met a girl on a dating app. One day after work, he finally found the courage to ask her out. No answer. He started to panic. Was he being too pushy? Maybe it was too
Sorry I didn't respond. I was driving. I would love to go on a date. How does tonight sound?
Brandon tried to play it cool, but inside he knew. A girl so smart, so responsible. She must be a keeper.
Yesterday, the Washington Wizards hosted the Memphis Grizzlies and were able to secure the 102-92 win. And the Wizards are holding down the fort without their star player Bradley Beal, who tested positive for COVID. And this victory marks the fourth one in a row the team has collected. The Wizards will look to extend that win streak as they match up against the Oklahoma City Thunder this Wednesday. Now, the University of Maryland women's basketball team recently fell to the defending national champions 81-56. Going into halftime, the Terps were only down by 6 points, but the size and tenacity of the University of South Carolina Gamecocks wore the Terps down. And in the third quarter, they got outscored 30-17. After the game, South Carolina's legendary head coach Dawn Staley summed up their performance in these few words.
And we got a number of players that can come, experienced players that can come in and give them different looks, and I thought we used our size and our length to our advantage tonight.
Now, despite the end result of this game, it really helped the Lady Terps learn a lot about themselves as a team. And after the game, head coach Brenda Fries had this to say.
I saw a lot of really positive things to be able to see, especially in the first half. You know, to be, I told them in the locker room, to be walking in at halftime 6 points down to the defending national champions, in my opinion, has a better roster than last year. They're deeper, their length, their athleticism, play. I thought our kids did a great job executing the game plan. And you just saw the third quarter got away from us, obviously, because of the depth that they had, the size, the experience, and we'll get there.
The Lady Terps host Davidson this Wednesday at 11 a.m. Now tonight, Taylor, the Commanders travel to Philly to go play the undefeated Eagles. What are you thinking?
8-0. I'm nervous.
Yeah.
I'm just nervous.
I'm sure they are.
I didn't know the Eagles are that good.
You're right. Pressure makes diamonds sometimes, so hopefully they can come out with the win.
Well, we have a lot of Eagle fans here, but, you know, I'm going for the Commanders, so I'll be watching it tonight. Thanks, Laurencia. Let's turn now to our 3-day weather forecast. Wow, tonight, partly cloudy with lows around 30 degrees. Tuesday, partly sunny, highs around 58. Wednesday's forecast, partly sunny, highs near 53 degrees. Thursday's forecast, sunny with a high near 46 and an evening low around 29 degrees. And now for our community calendar, take a trip down memory lane at a musical tribute honoring Al Green. Singer Jerome McEl covers popular hits from the 70s such as Let's Stay Together and more. The performance will be held at Harmony Hall Arts Center this Saturday, November 19th at 8 p.m. For tickets or more information, simply go to pgparks.com. And that wraps up our newscast today. I'm Taylor Thomas. Good night. Yes.